Hello and welcome to the What's the Story podcast. I'm Jarlath Kyan.
And I'm Victoria Houston. Each week we'll be focusing on the stories that matter to you. Stories about the people and places that make Tyrone so special.
The What's the Story podcast is brought to you by the Northwest News Group, who also print our much-loved newspapers, the Ulster Herald, Strabane Chronicle and the Tyrone Herald. Enjoy the show.
Many of you here today weren't even born when Patsy Kelly was murdered in July 1974. So it is wonderful to see that as Patsy is being remembered by young and old alike. Patsy Kelly was proud to represent the people of Trillick on Omagh District Council. He was a civil rights activist and a proud Irishman.
This is the story of Patsy Kelly told by those who knew him best. It's also the story of a family's search for the truth about what happened to him on that summer's night in 1974. I'm Alan Rogers and I've spoken to Patsy's wife Teresa and his sons Fergal, Barry and Patsy. We also reflect on that time with the three men who were the last friendly faces Patsy saw just before he was abducted and murdered. Brenton Donnelly and Councillor Kelly's brothers-in-law, Patsy and John Kelly.
Patsy had a great personality and he was a great dancer.
This is Patsy's wife Teresa. The couple were married in the mid-60s and at the time of the abduction they had 4 children. Teresa was pregnant with Patsy Jr. He was born in March 1975.
He definitely was a great man for the people and actually was all into when he became a councillor and getting more housing for Trillick and all. And he was a great person for both sides of the community.
Patsy Kelly helped run the Corner Bar in Trillick, which he leased from local man Gilbert Tunney. Teresa's final memory of her husband is of him leaving the house to go to work in the bar that night.
Indeed, I remember that very evening that when he went to leave, he came out with, left us all out. Then he went to go back in again, and they all used to run out to the side of the car to kisses and hugs. It used to be the whole, Because I would have mostly sat up and waited till he'd come home. Because he was always right, never too late, but he used to always say, if somebody comes in now and you can't get them out, don't you be worrying, for I'll definitely be home, because he knew it wasn't, that night I did sit up.
My name is Patsy Kelly. I'm son of the late councillor Patsy Kelly, who was abducted and murdered on the 24th of July 1974 at the very spot that we're standing here right now. So this would have been one of the routes he would have taken home. He would have left Trillick, travelling the short 2-mile journey home. It was, it's a journey he would have made numerous times. Obviously, because of the security situation in the north at the time, he was running a pub. My mother would have been worried, saying, look, you're travelling home late at night, and he would have had the takings from the pub with him. So he would have always said, look, don't be worrying, there's no need to be worrying, because I will only ever be stopping for someone who's in a uniform. So, as we've said many times in the past, that, over 50 years as it is now, how badly was my father and how badly have my family and the local community here in Trillick been let down by men who are wearing uniforms. He was actually stopped at this point of the road just a few weeks earlier by UDR patrol, and as we stand here, like you can see, this is it's a very rural part. It's a minor road. It's not at a junction or an intersection of any sort. So for a British Army patrol to be a checkpoint to be set up on a road like this would have been abnormal at the time. What was the reasonings for that to have been the case, unless there was something sinister at play? And it's widely believed that the previous 2 weeks that incident could be stopped at a checkpoint here, and then literally for a 3-week period to have disappeared off the face of the earth. How could he move? How could his killers have moved the body from this location 15 miles away to Lough Eyes without encountering at least one? And if we think of that 15-mile journey, they should have encountered at least 3, if not 4, security force checkpoints.
There was an air of expectancy around Trillick in the summer of 1974. The St McCartney's team was making an historic bid for the O'Neill Cup, a trophy that they hadn't won for 37 years. On the evening of Tuesday, July 24 that year, the players trained at Donnelly Park ahead of their county semi-final clash against reigning champions Arboe. As dusk fell, teammates Brenton Donnelly and the Kelly twins, Patsy and John, went to the corner bar for a quiet drink. They were the last people to see Patsy alive before he met his killers.
We were the last 3 to see him.
We were in the bar, and I do remember he came down. There was a kind of a lounge area, and he came down and he drank a bottle of beer with us, didn't he? He sat beside me. It was Patsy, me, John and Patsy. And I remember saying he'd switched the lights out because at that time he didn't want, I suppose, he wanted to close up and didn't want people coming in. And I remember asking him the time, and he says it's 12:10, and he put his hand out like that there, to get the light of the bar to shine in it so they could see it. That time there wasn't digital watches, so he looked, he says 12:10, he says time we were going. So the four of us went out together. Patsy and John were running me out home. Because I didn't have a car, being the student, of course. They had cars, I used to be jealous of them. And they were running me out home, but they went down the street to turn, and me and Patsy just stood outside the bar for a couple of minutes and chatted a couple of seconds, and then Patsy and John came back over and lifted me and out the road.
Early the following morning, the 3 men found out that Patsy hadn't come home. Fears for Mr. Kelly's safety intensified, with reports of shots being fired during the night.
He threw stones up at John and myself's window. It was about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and said, "Well, did you see Patsy last night?" I said, "Did." He said he hadn't come home, and the thing started from there, just out searching.
I mean that morning, tell you the truth, that we got up and drove about and didn't know, because you didn't know what to do, and drove about a bit and see nothing. And then the word got through then, eventually became Patsy's brother. He was out looking at cows or something, and he'd heard did he hear a shot? Or?
He heard shots.
He heard shots. And then saw the blood and hair on the road.
Buttons.
The disappearance of Patsy Kelly ignited a massive search operation that brought the community of Trillick and the surrounding areas together in a display of solidarity and determination. Local residents, friends and family mobilised to find him, coordinating their efforts from Father Matt Hall. Thousands of people from across Tyrone and Fermanagh joined the search, scouring the countryside for any sight of Mr. Kelly. The search intensified as days turned into weeks, marked by the discovery of Mr. Kelly's burnt-out car near the Colebrook River in County Fermanagh.
You went there every morning, and you went out searching. You could have been sent any out. It was a nightmare, but you knew he wasn't coming back.
The late Gilbert Tunney was a kind of a coordinator of it, the whole thing, wasn't it? Then you were given what town lands you were doing. A gang of us walked the whole way from Trillick to Omagh, down the main road and back again, searching sides of the road, searching fields and all that sort of stuff. But on that Thursday night, word came through to the bar that the car had been found, and that was tense that night. I remember that night. That was one particular occasion when I was actually afraid. It was building and building and building. I think Liam McSorley was there at the time, God rest him, and he kind of calmed it down and got people out and back home again.
After 3 harrowing weeks of searching, the remains of Patsy Kelly were discovered on August 10, 1974 at Lough Eyes near Lisbon. His body, weighed down by a 56-pound weight, contained 6 bullet wounds. The discovery brought a sombre conclusion to the extensive search efforts, leaving the community grappling with grief and anger. Mr. Kelly's funeral, held at Maharaloch Chapel, saw a massive outpouring of support from the local community, with huge numbers of people in attendance to pay their final respects. The Sunday after the funeral, Trillick's footballers took to the field to play their Tyrone Championship semi-final against Arboe. It was a game they were determined to win for Patsy Kelly. Indeed, the St Macartans went on to beat Carrickmore in the final and lift the O'Neill Cup for the first time in 37 years.
The one thing that came out of it was that Arboe had assisted us during those 3 weeks to search for Patsy and to go through the same experiences we went through, and they were very generous in their help, and we appreciated that a lot, particularly to them. But that counted for nothing on the day of the match, of course, because they were then at that stage going for 3 in a row, was it?
4 in a row.
4 in a row, yeah. So I suppose there was no love lost in the pitch, Alan, any more than there was any other game. We were still determined to win it.
When the day was over now, you're a great keeper.
There was a lot of celebrating.
A lot of celebrating done that week. It lifted the whole town and the whole community.
As Trillick celebrated the winning the O'Neill Cup, the Kelly family faced an immense struggle to cope with their grief and move on with their lives. Patsy's wife and children found themselves navigating the painful aftermath of his loss, burdened not only by the void he left behind, but also by the haunting questions surrounding his death. Here, Patsy's wife Teresa and sons Fergal and Barry speak candidly about the impact of losing their husband and father.
Fergal used to get up in the morning, and I didn't want to get up many morning. He'd get up in the morning, and we had a leather settee in there, and he used to have my head turned. I'd be trying to relax now, and he'd be, I want my bracky. He used to say, your bracky, I want my bracky. And she had to get up. You couldn't listen to children crying. You know, the only good thing was at least I had most of my sisters and brothers and my in-laws. My brother-in-law Peter, we lived down the road, and Brady and Annie and Ethan and me, they were all very good to me. And all the whole community at large too. Everybody was so, and still are.
The only thing specific that I can remember about him is the fact that they used to wear dealer boots, brown dealer boots that the young boys were wearing all the way in the day. I remember he used to have a pair of them, for they used to be sitting at the door all the time when he came in. That's the only thing that stands out in my head that I do remember right enough about the dealer boots. It was only then probably when you become 12 or 13, you start to go to secondary school, that it didn't become an issue, but it become more apparent then to you that you had lost your father, because you went to school and the teachers at school were asking, now who are you and what Kelly are you, or where do you come from, and who's your father? And you had to stand up in front of the class and say, well, my father's dead.
I remember I must have done something bold or naughty one day, and I remember he must have scolded me or something, and I can remember our cooker wasn't there, it was in where the fireplace is in there, and I remember standing up against it and biting my finger in anger. I remember him sitting back on the sofa, maybe like a brown suit on it. I remember him laughing and saying, go on, bite it harder, bite it harder. That would be the only, as Barry mentioned, the dealer boots would be a thing that I would remember as well. Yeah. No, but I mean, I would have looked through the papers. I'm talking probably primary school age, probably maybe 9 to 10 years of age. I would imagine in around that age probably. I don't know how I felt about it, but I was certainly interested in the story at the time. Very, very interested, and I just wanted to get information on it, you know.
Because it was too heartbreaking to to tell them about it. But I remember, as you know, there was no councillor or anything. And I said to the doctor, sure, well, how am I going to tell them? You know, how? And she said, well, no, don't tell them, but she said, leave the papers that they can read them themselves. And I did, but you did read the papers, didn't you?
No.
They read the papers. I mean, I was very sharp with them, I know I was, and you know, but I often used to think it was that sharp with them that hold it against me when they grew up, but no, they didn't. But you had to be. I mean, it wasn't, they didn't have it easy, And then, of course, I suppose at the same time, I would have taken my frustration out on them too. I mean, they were in their earlier days and expected a lot of them too, you know. They had to do things that other children wouldn't have had to do. No, they weren't. I must say, they weren't hard to rear. They didn't give me any bother at all. But I was sharp with them. It was the use knew that I was sharp. That, you know, I would have been very sharp.
If you got the knuckle on the knee, you knew.
I mean, I would have used the salary rod.
The Kelly family's journey to seek answers in terms of what happened to Patsy and who was responsible has been long and arduous. For 5 decades, the quest for truth has not only been about uncovering the details of Patsy's murder, but also about holding those responsible accountable and finding closure for their enduring pain. It is widely accepted that members of a UDR patrol were responsible, although no one was ever convicted. The Kelly family and their legal representatives have always questioned the thoroughness and integrity of initial police inquiries. In April 2023, a police ombudsman report found that the Kelly family were failed by a wholly inadequate police investigation. Amongst the many failings highlighted in the report, it said that there had been a failure to pursue forensic evidence, including a footprint at the scene of Mr. Kelly's abduction, which was from boots associated with a type worn by members of the security forces. The Ombudsman also found there was evidence of collusive behaviour.
Omagh-based solicitor Adrian O'Kane has been carrying on the legacy of the late Pat Fahey to achieve the truth and justice that the Kelly family have been seeking for the past 5 decades.
There was a series of inquests indeed which began with the Michael Hone inquest in Pomeroy, which was the first of this series of legacy inquests chaired by the Lady Chief Justice held in Omagh, Siobhan Keegan, and that was the first finding that the Lady Chief Justice decreed that the killing was unjustified and unlawful. That continued with Ballymurphy, Springhill and the series of inquests which brought us right through to May of this year, whenever the Tory government did seek to close down every effort on the part of the British government was to run down the clock, and the same happened indeed with Teresa Kelly. We applied to the Attorney General again for a fresh inquest. The Attorney General's response was, look, this is the 4th time that you've asked, and the answer remains no, the door remains closed. And we brought, led by Des Fahey, son of Pat, Des Fahey KC, one of the leading inquest barristers who was involved indeed in Stardust, led by Des Fahey, we brought then a 4th judicial review at which the Attorney General's ruling was overruled. And I'll conclude that by saying, Alan, that yes, we pushed the campaign to the limit. Our judicial review was successful. The Attorney General relented. The inquest was allowed. However, the Tory tactic of running down the clock was successful because the May 24 deadline then at that stage ensured that the door was closed. And that, I do say, I sat with Teresa Kelly and Fergal on that occasion on the morning of Mr. Justice Humphreys, that apologetically High Court Judge Mr. Justice Humphreys, his hands were tied, they had run out of resources and the clock had stopped, and that brought us through. And that day, I have to say, sitting with Teresa Kelly was most emotional. And in the words of Teresa that day, Teresa said, in 50 years, nothing has changed.
However, the recent election of the Labour government has rekindled fresh hope for the long-awaited inquest into the murder of Patsy Kelly.
Through the good offices, the work that was carried on by Pat, the material that was presented to the Attorney General, Alan, with the proposed repeal of the Legacy Act, and credit is given to Hilary Benn for confirming that this is the intention of the Labour government. The Kelly family are ready for their day in court. The material is there, the personnel are there. Desfahi KC, having presented these judicial reviews, is ready to lead the inquest. So whenever the repeal is confirmed, brought to the statute book, the Kelly family will be in court, and those who were responsible for the murder and for the cover-up, they will have to answer to the court.
On Saturday, July 21st, 2024, hundreds of people took part in a service at the site on the Badoni Road where Patsy Kelly was abducted. They braved the rain to mark a poignant anniversary. Patsy Kelly's son, Patsy Jr., was deeply moved by the overwhelming turnout and support from the community.
Untrue to say that there have been dark days where you do really wonder if you can get to, you know, the end result of real truth and justice. But I suppose on a day like today, when you see this huge swell of numbers that have come out in such an awful day of weather here at the very, very top of Brother, the huge crowd that we had at the Mass earlier, the huge crowd that was in the Father Matt Hall, you know, to see this level of support is really what you take with you in those days, and in the past, those days where you may have, you know, in your own quiet moments questioned whether you were going to be successful in getting truth and justice for my father.
Many of you here today weren't even born when Patsy Kelly was murdered in July 1974. So it is wonderful to see that as Patsy is being remembered by young and old alike. Patsy Kelly was proud to represent the people of Trillick on Omagh District Council. He was a civil rights activist. He was a proud Trillick man and a proud Irishman. He was also a United Irelander and believed in an end to partition and believed in the unification of our country. Patsy Kelly had a great love of all aspects of Irish culture, our games, our songs and dance, and Gaelic, our language. He understood their importance in forming our unique identity and would be delighted to see our culture grow and flourish in this parish and throughout the 6 counties and right across Ireland.
Just like to reiterate what Fergal has also said, just to extend a word of thanks to each and everyone who's taken the time to come here today, because from 1974 to 2004, without your input and your support and your comfort and your belief, we wouldn't be where we are today. It was in the town of Trillick, in the county of Tyrone, a young man locked up his business and began his journey home. His name was Patsy Kelly. He was everybody's friend. Working to fulfil the needs of others was his never-ending yearn. 2 miles he had to travel, but he never got that far. As wicked men lay waiting, he came out and stopped his car. What they did to him that night, no one will ever know. As his wife sat waiting, worried, when home he did not go. The police came out to look for him, with dogs and soldiers too. They said they searched along the rivers and dragged them for a clue. They said they covered all the countryside. They said they didn't leave a perch. But when they couldn't find him, they just called off the search. But the neighbours gathered, one and all. They came from far and near, determined to find out what happened to a lad they held so dear. They trampled over mountains, bogs and moors. They walked until their feet were sore. They searched through fields and ditches until they could search no more. In a quiet part of Erin that is known as Lough Eyes, a doctor cast his fishing line beneath the morning skies. When the silent waters of the lake revealed to him that day the sad fate of Patsy Kelly as submerged his body lay. What torture he had suffered is known to God alone. For their crude deeds to cover, they had tied him to a stone. But fate took a hand in their wicked plan and turned their boots array. And now young Patsy Kelly rests in peace in Marloch Cemetery. Thank you.
This We Are Tyrone podcast has been presented by Alan Rogers and produced by Nigel McDonough.